Good evening. This is Sonia Falayan. Welcome to Mind and Manna. We're back on Thursday Night Live again. I've taken a brief hiatus to do some rest and reflecting, but I'm glad to be back here with you tonight. For those of you who may be new to this channel, Mind and Manna, this is a channel that's dedicated to women, especially Black women 55 and older, who are interested in leveling up their finances so that they can live a more intentional life that includes freedom, rest, travel, and ease. We talk about a lot of things here. Moving abroad. I talk a lot about living in Mexico and other places beyond because I do live in Mexico. I've been here for 3 years. And tonight is really special. I have a very special guest tonight who is a money coach, a money mentor. Her name is Chandra Parks. I've known her for a number of years now. Our paths have crossed in a number of different areas. For me, there's been a lot of additional chatter in the last 24 hours due to the recent election in the United States. I think most of us who are on these online platforms, who are living abroad or who have groups around living abroad, we've gotten an uptick in requests and inquiries about what it means, what it would take, what it would take to move abroad, what the steps are involved in it. So I think tonight it's very timely that we talk about some of the financial barriers that can get in the way of moving abroad and how we're thinking about our money. The last thing I want to say before we bring in our guest is that if you have not subscribed to my channel, please, I invite you to do so. I also invite your comments, your likes, and your shares. It's Mind and Manna. And also, if you are interested in learning about the lakeside communities of Mexico around Lake Chapala and Guadalajara, I invite you to join or to ask to join our private Facebook group, Mexodus Sojourners. With that being said, now I would like to bring in our guest. Hello, Chandra.
Hey Sonia, how are you doing? And hi everyone. Thank you for having me on this evening so we can have this wonderful conversation regarding mind and manna.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're here. As if I didn't say so, Chandra is a holistic coach. She's a financial health strategist and trainer. And we both have social work in common and a love for social justice and social action. Chandra is an amazing professional, and I'm really delighted to have her here tonight for this conversation. So, Chandra, is there anything else that you would like us to know about you before we start?
I actually thank you, Sonia, with that information. I also serve as the board president. I'm located in Maryland, on the East Coast here in the United States, of the Maryland Council on Problem Gambling. So we provide advocacy, awareness, and assistance to individuals, families who may have been impacted by individuals who may be struggling with a gambling addiction. And so that is information that I raised within the African American community, but just like to share that particular, information as well. So if you're ever looking for, resources, because uh, it's happening, it's a social thing, and people don't, think about it, but we want to make sure that people are able to uh, be safe when they engage in, recreational, activities, and make sure that there's no harm that is being done as relates to, finances.
I think that's a very good point that you make. I know one of the things that is an important part of our community and many aspects of our community are the purchase of lottery tickets. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
And those dollars that were, there has to be some intentional thinking about the amount that we're spending on those lottery tickets, because those monies do add up. So I'm hoping that we can also talk about that this evening. Um,
Okay.
it's been an interesting 24 48 hours. Woo. Yesterday, although I'm in Mexico, the news of the election certainly it's
Hmm.
worldwide news, and I was very intentional yesterday about allowing myself time, space to reflect and to rest. Um, I took some walks around the lake. I did a lot of reflecting. I made myself some wholesome meals. I didn't go out anywhere. I just kind of took care of myself, just to allow things, within my own body to settle. Um, because these are very interesting times that we're living in. How did you handle yesterday?
Well, sort of similar, the same thing. I definitely, let's say, prior to yesterday, was able to sit with some friends and did like a virtual watch party, just to have conversation as to what's happening and what's going on. And then finally say, okay, I went to sleep. And I think I woke up early Wednesday morning when I saw the news of the outcome of the election. And immediately there was like this heaviness that came upon myself, and just reading, engaging in social media, and you saw a lot of individuals expressing grief, just expressing the shock, or just feeling closed up in their bodies and didn't know what to do, and just conversation, being able to flow, having tears, like what does this mean, feeling some sort of betrayal, and all those feelings um, are valid. And at the flip side, there are people who were extremely happy, encouraged, and yes, so there's also feelings that are valid. So there was a spectrum of feelings that took place yesterday. So with that, because we're care professionals, we take on all of that, and it cost me finally at the end of the day to kind of have to step back and rest, feel what
Hmm.
I'm feeling, acknowledge that. Where is it showing up in my body? And really to do that reflection and say, hey, what is this going to look like? Because this is the outcome, this is here. But ultimately, what does this impact you in terms of your own personal space? And due to some of our past, history together, we learn, despite what's going on externally, internally, we have that power of choice and empowerment to dictate, choose, be intentional about what we want our own personal economy to look like. And being a financial social worker, I look at it from the lens in terms of how does this impact economically, individually, collectively as a whole, and then what does that impact look like in terms of systems on the community, and hearing each of the different platforms and what that policy is going to look like, it still trickles back down to how am I going to govern myself with all this information in terms of what is that economy going to look like for me, and how it's going to shape that, and where resources are going to come from, or how do I now begin to shift and begin to create additional resources that I'm able to live the lifestyle that I want to
Hmm.
live, not only for now, but what is this realistically going to look like for me 10 years from now, 15 years from now? What is in play? So for me, that um, was the reflection. The second part of that reflection is begin to ensure that I am intentional about my finances being in alignment with my values and my purpose for what I want to do and who I choose to support. And oftentimes that second part can be a little, challenging because oftentimes there are systemic things that does not allow us to really kind of make that stand. But ultimately it is a place where we begin to shift our resources and be purposeful about where we're sending our money, what our money, when I engage, when I buy for this company, ultimately where they're sending their dollars and who they're supporting. So if it's something that doesn't line up with my value, then why am I still supporting this company? And sometimes taking those social justice stances are not always easy.
Well, they're often not easy. I know for me, making the move abroad meant purging myself of most of my things, not all of my things, but most of my things. And then, having a process of looking through, and I consider myself to be a fairly conscious person, a fairly intentional person, but, looking through the things that I threw away, I look at all the money that I spent on things that really, in the end, really had no value. um, you know, Clothing I didn't need, shoes I didn't need, just other things, all the collections of things that I have, pretty things. Um, and that I'm not saying that there's not a place for that in my life, but I know now that I have moved abroad, I'm very intentional about what I spend and where I spend it. And social work does give us that broad perspective to filter things through. But even in my life as an artist, I've had to do some reevaluating about the materials that I use, where I get them from. As a textile artist, I know that a lot of a lot of textile waste is in the environment, and it's floating in Africa and other places. I mean, it's a mountain of mess is what it is. We're using materials that are not good for our body, not good for our environment, and they cost money. They still cost money. And sometimes the convenient thing is to do the shortcut. The inconvenient thing that has long-term ramifications for the environment, for myself, for my spirit, for my community may cost more, and it may require more work on my part. So just, what you're saying about the intentional choices are often the more difficult choices.
And because they're oftentimes the more difficult, choices, that's the time we really need to sit and reflect in terms of, if I'm going to make this choice and decision, what is the best way of going about making that change? So something as simple as, okay, I want to realign my money. The first thing is being able to look inwardly and say, well, what is it that I value? What are my values at this particular age, at this particular point in my life? What is it that I
Mhm.
truly value, and be able to sit and reflect from there and listen and wait for the answer, and not to rush that, rush that process. Once you find out what that answer is and what your values are, then being able to go through and say, how do I want my money to show up in this space, and realign that it makes sense to me. If
Well, I
I
think what you
value
said,
health, right?
I think what you said about looking at your looking at that question is probably going to be answered differently at different times in life. When I was raising a family and had house mortgage payments and all those things, that dictated a certain way of being and thinking. Having grown children now, and not being responsible in the same way, does give me I'm in another place, so I can make other choices. It would have been unrealistic to purge my household when I was growing a family. So I think being conscious of the stage that we're in is very, very important. I want to say hello to Jason. I love you too, cousin. Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it, that our birthday comes around every year around the same time. And so one of the things that I have done over the past, decade is I really utilize that time to do a whole overall reflection almost on every area of my life. And that's oftentimes a good idea to say, okay, my birthday another year, what's working and what's not, and where do I want to see myself? Because we're always constantly in a state of change, and we're evolving. And as you mentioned, what was important to me maybe 5 or 10 years ago, may not be important at this particular time. And then
Hmm.
moving forward. So don't be afraid not to sit down and take the time and look and be able to purge and get this information, because it's definitely a learning, experience, and it's an enjoyable experience as well.
It can be. It is enjoyable experience, and it can be an enjoyable experience. I think it can also be frightening and disconcerting when we look and see where we are lacking in some of those areas, and we may not know um, how to get the support that we need to improve in those areas. Um, and different things hit us at different times. I love the fact that you were saying, you know, we have to ask ourselves, what are we going to do 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now? And how will we begin to navigate those things? Can you speak a little bit more about some of the barriers? First of all, I know that you just came from Mexico on a vacation, and I wanted to ask you how
Yes.
you felt about the time that you spent away, and what new information did you come away with after you took that break?
So thank you for asking that question. So yes, I actually did come back from Mexico. I was grateful because I it was with a group, and so one of the things that I was able to put on a payment plan, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm used to traveling, having a roommate, and splitting the cost, but then I was just like, oh my gosh, it's just me. So that was eye opening to be able to say, hey, although you're traveling with a group, your living arrangements is just going to be you. So being able to take on that responsibility and to be responsible, whether I have a roommate or not, that was so empowering because I was on a payment plan and I was able to accomplish that. So I was like, okay, that took the fear out of just, you're not, don't let the cost of the room scare you away, because with a payment plan and
Mhm.
you're able to do that. So that was liberating right there. So that was the best thing, one of the best things. And then it was just an experience, being in a different country and being able to be intentional and present. And so when I say, um, which was my favorite time in terms of breakfast, I was asking for something as simple as a green tea. And here in the United States, we could go to Starbucks or whatever, and get some tea. In the process, we're always rushing here. And I remember asking the young lady who was serving the tea, like, where's my tea? And I realized in that particular moment that I was very impatient with her due to the nature of where I was coming from,
Oh
because we
yeah.
wanted everything quick, fast, in a hurry. So if I asked for a tea, excuse me, I'm expecting the tea to show up 2 minutes later because we got to quickly hurry up and move on to the next thing to do. But she said, she put her hand, she said, slow down, the tea is coming, the tea is coming. And in that moment in time, it just a light bulb went on my head. It's like, you're so quick and busy in terms in a hurry to try to get to the next thing that you're really not enjoying or processing what is going on in the moment, and to be able to take the time to slow down to drink the tea. And at that, when I saw that, I was like, wow, how do I now begin to become more intentional with my lifestyle to stop doing everything so quick in a hurry, that I can begin to learn to slow down, be intentional, and be present and be mindful in that particular moment. And what it showed me is that also over there, it was just simple as a ginger tea or green tea with honey. Simple things that can easily be done. And here it is, because I'm so quick, fast, in a hurry, that I'm willing to spend $6 for a
Mm.
hot chai tea latte from a name brand company, every because I don't want to sit and go through the process of steeping my own tea at home, where economically it can reduce the cost, or environment, or do different things. So it was at that particular time that caused me to have to go back and say, what are the things that I'm overspending, all in the name of convenience? So
Oh, I love that.
that was my experience when I was in Mexico, that I was really able to slow down and just be present, in the moment, and be able to rest. And what are those things, once again, all in the name of convenience, that is keeping me from being able to rest my mind and my body, and then oftentimes my finances.
I love that revelation. That is so important. I often say, you know, I'm speaking, I can't speak for anybody else. I can't, but I do know that there have been times in the past when I have stood before the microwave oven. Hurry up, hurry up. It's in the microwave and I'm still wanting it to be faster. I mean, that's that kind of craziness. Um, one of the things that I have done is I am letting go of. Uh, we have a bed and breakfast in Mexico, and we don't have a microwave oven there, and we don't plan to get a microwave oven there. So it's just, again, it's just unpeeling those layers of how the drive for convenience does cost more money, and it also is detrimental to us in the not always in the long run. Sometimes it's detrimental in the short run too.
Right. And so, and as you mentioned that, what are the things that we are willing to take aside and look through? Like, what are those small changes that can be made? I
Hmm.
used tea. That was just something, very simple. But I realized that, I have gotten comfortable with paying this amount because they had all of this in the name and stuff like that. But it was something simple, just being able to steep a regular green tea packet with honey that tastes just as amazing or even more than what was added in the cost of my particular comfort. So I encourage individuals to be able to look at your life and be able to realign those things that value and matter to you, and be able to make the small steps, because the small steps add up over time, that you don't even realize. You're like, wait a minute, I was doing all that. Oh, okay. And you can kind of repurpose or reshift or realign your money to something else that may be of a greater priority.
Well, I do know some people are spending, $5, $6 a day at certain drink outlets that I won't name them, but they start with S and other places. They're spending $5, $6 a day. That can potentially be $30 a week, um, which is $120 a month. That money could go into an investment account. Um, I think the other thing that is apparent to me is that as Black women, hey Yvonne, I see you. Thanks for tuning in. I think the other thing that is paramount for us as Black women is the whole notion of working hard, being reliable, being the workhorse,
Wearing
the
the cape.
backbone, the one that's all that, all the time. I mean, it's ingrained in us, even if it's not through our parents, it's ingrained in us in society. I mean, I think about, this last election and who was the backbone. Um,
Yes,
the
saving
importance
everybody
of,
still.
yeah, right. And with that comes the message that we are to work hard for our money. We're to work hard for the money. But in reality, our money is supposed to work for us. So even changing
Absolutely.
that mindset that's so ingrained in us. Our money is
Right.
to be working for us. Our money is to be having babies, multiplying. So we have it backward.
Right. And I think definitely what you just mentioned, it is a mindset shift and really being able to understand, what is the purpose of money? Money is a tool. So how do we
Hmm.
utilize a tool that's going to be, helpful for me to engage to make it work? So there's a key. There's a point, where I put in, I work. This is what I do, and I exchange my time, and this is the money that I may receive. But there's other ways that you're able to have your money work for you, that you don't have to put that time and energy in. And oftentimes we have been taught just to stay on this one track for to multiply our money, instead of being able to taught the different avenues that we can have our money to work, or to utilize the appropriate, or utilize the right strategies of what is needed in order for your money to grow and work in
Exactly.
those ways.
How can you give? Yeah. So can you give some examples from your experience and what you know?
So for example, in terms of course, um, if you are, I am employed, I work, a 9 to 5, so that is one stream of uh, income. My my paycheck. I know my paycheck is able to utilize and help me maintain my current style, my current lifestyle. But it may not oftentimes be always enough to
Hmm.
prepare me or take care of me in the future. So I now got to
Hmm.
begin to think about what are other ways, because it's just me, that I'm able to set myself up through the future. And so they may be different strategies of using investment, income, um, utilizing and maximizing out a retirement, plan. It may come through utilizing real estate, being a real estate,
Hmm.
investor. It may come from, oftentimes, I'm here in the United States, where people talk about utilizing entrepreneurship as a means to be able to set yourself up for the here and now in terms of your future self. Um, and there are different paths to entrepreneurship that can help us out, that oftentimes that we don't think about, um, as it relates to making money work for us.
I think the thing you said about trading our time for dollars, that was a big thing for me. I am in recovery from being a therapist for over really 40 years. I consider myself in recovery from that, having from holding sacred space for people and groups and community for a long time, having a chance to step away from that and to utilize my skills in different ways. But the whole trading my time for dollars, I really wanted to do something different. And one of my, a couple of my financial mentors really stressed the importance of cash, that you take some cash, you get an asset that's going to build you some more cash so that we're not doing all of the physical work, all the physical labor.
Right.
So residual income in various forms is extremely important for us to develop that. And for people that are thinking about traveling overseas where you're not going to be able to have quote unquote a job as such, finding ways, creative ways to have those multiple streams of income, whether they trickle in or whether they pour in, it all does count and it does add up. All of it adds up over time. So I think
Absolutely.
being creative in our ideas, how we look at our relationship with money, and again, understanding that money is a tool that is here to work for us, not the other way around. I just think that's just really, really important. Of course, we're going to be responsible and
Right.
have
Absolutely. Absolutely.
whatever means, like you know, but we're missing out if we're not allowing the money to work for us. Another thing I wanted to share is that I'm here in Mexico. This is it's a for most Americans and foreigners who are in the country, this does provide us with an opportunity to have a more leisurely lifestyle. It's less stressful. There's more time for community. There's more time to share and commune. There's more time to think and reflect. Um, that's an important thing for us to have. Um, some of my, I know people in the community who have a leisurely shopping lifestyle. Shopping and spending is very important to them. They've worked hard. This is the money that they've earned. Um, so, going to places where there's boutique opportunities, and that's an important value to some. That is not an important value to me at this point in time in my life. Is I have I love art. I love beautiful things, but I'm not interested in just spending to have more beautiful things, if that makes any sense. So it's
Mhm.
like you said,
Absolutely.
it's like what are the values? What are the values that we hold? And for me, being in a new country without a pension, choosing entrepreneurship as a way for me to have additional income, also residual income, and also finding ways to stay ahead of inflation. That's part of my thinking in terms of where is my money going and how is it going to last, and what impact is my spending going to have on me in this new community and economy that I have chosen for myself.
Right. And absolutely. And I think that's the beauty of it, that each one of us are individuals. And so we have the opportunity to create our own money story and what we want that to look like for us,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to that spend, um, that save, that giving, that community. And so once you really have sat with yourself and have identified those different areas, then you begin to move out and do those things that line up with what you say. And we, us being, financial social workers, we oftentimes help individuals develop what is their own financial self-care plan. What are those things that you're able to do that nourishes you, as well as help you stay within the financial boundaries that you set for yourself so you can really achieve that which you want in life. So everyone has that, opportunity to say, this is what I value to me and what is important to me, and how can I be able to do more of that to make sure that it does not cause me or allow another person or things to cause harm to myself.
Exactly. And I also, I just want to, I want to clear up now. I didn't say, I didn't say I never go shopping. I didn't say that. I didn't say
Oh
I
yeah,
don't,
yeah, definitely.
like nice things. But as far as just as, shopping to be shopping is, that's just not my lifestyle. But I
Right.
don't have a problem with anyone where that is. And those are some of
Yeah.
the decisions that I've had to make for myself. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Hmm.
why I say each one of us, our money story is going to be very individual, and it's personal, personalized, and that's the beauty of us, being individuals, that we can create our own money stories that speak to us, and knowing that. So that's just the beauty of it. So what works for you and what excites you may not excite me, and just the things that may excite me may not excite you. But what are the things that bring you joy? What brings you excitement? How can you do more of that and make sure that it does, you doing more of that, that it does not take you away or does not harm you from that lifestyle that you say you want to see 10 years from now.
Right, exactly, exactly. What are some other suggestions that you might have on how, um, our community in particular was hit very, very hard uh, during COVID. We already have a financial income gap among Black women, Black families. Um, the comeback for some of us is harder than for others. So, what are some of the suggestions that you have for people to continue to have hope? What Let me just say this before I forget. We were talking about the microwave mentality that that is so embedded in the United States culture, throughout the culture. I think also many times we have a microwave mentality about wanting to change our finances overnight. It's a process. Um, you know, Understanding where we are with our money, seeing improvements in our finances, it sometimes can take a little while. But I think the knowledge that we're working on those things is very, very comforting and helps us as we lay that foundation for the future.
So you just spelled it out. One is our mindsets, and really being able to go through that process of that healing journey with our money. Really looking and being able to examine our thoughts, our habits as relates to money, and being able to, and I'm going to just use me for example, that okay, what causes me or challenges me to save this $25? It's a small number, but what are the hiccups during the week that at the end of the week I'm not able to save this $25? And what happens, I want to speak to my own self, is I get caught up when it's time for lunchtime. That I want to go out and hang out with my friends and buy lunch instead of preparing my lunch at home. And although I have gone grocery shopping and prepared for that, I still find myself wanting to spend the money that I can't save at the end of the week. I use that as an example to say, you know what, maybe I need to not only track my spending, but be able to track what are some of the distractions that may come through or may pop up that I didn't think about. I may also begin to look at what are my feelings that are showing up as relates to money, just to get an overall picture as to what's happening, what's going on. So being able to examine and know myself and say, okay, you know what? You kind of manage, pretty good, but it is 7 days, here, you need to make it stretch for 10 days. So you make it to the seventh day. What's happening that you for the additional 3 days. What is that particular plan? And once you begin to notice those patterns, then it can help you to say, you know what, I want to save. I want to be intentional about saving. What do I need to shift in how I am doing something? And a lot of that comes from insight. A lot of that comes from just sitting down, reading, and talking with other financial professionals, a coach or a financial counselor, and one being comfortable with talking about money. That's something in our community that we have not done a lot in the past, to be open to share our struggles, our challenges with money, or I want to grow in this area, and being able to find a financial mentor that, I want to inspire to say, if I want to make $1 million, who are some millionaires that I could connect to or begin to follow? How do I begin to raise my money IQ? Through books, through magazines, listening to podcasts,
Mhm.
stretching myself, and joining different financial groups to learn more about investing or stocks or different, challenges to create the lifestyle that I want to uh, aspire to. So those are things that are done on an ongoing, basis, and having a plan and say, you know what, it takes time. What is the best way that I can maximize this time that is going to work for me, and be able to utilize the resources that I'm already doing? And it may just be, I just need to realign, or that's great. So I like to save. Okay, well, maybe instead of just saving in a regular bank account through a traditional bank, maybe I could take that same $25 that I was saving in a bank account. Maybe I can then switch that same $25, and maybe I'll open up a high interest saving account, which will allow me more interest
Right.
on my money. I haven't changed to $25 because after I look for everything, that's still what I have. Maybe I just need to make sure I have my money in the right vehicle that can help me get me further along the way than the common vehicle that was utilized, that was given to me. So sometimes it's making sure that we have the right vehicles that we're utilizing, because we done did everything that we can. Maybe it's just, I just need to switch here, and this can help my money grow a little bit, faster over here. Or maybe it's say, okay, I need to challenge. And maybe I say, okay, well, maybe I can look at entrepreneurship or creative employment opportunities or entrepreneurship opportunities that can teach me how to shift my income, where I
Hmm.
can begin to utilize and maximize or minimize what's coming out of my paycheck. So then that could free up some more money to reduce debt, which then can free up more money. Then I can invest or buy another asset that's able to produce, income. So those are the different things, is really to sit down, read, connect with individuals, listen to different opportunities that may come up or around. And I think those things on a continual basis, and have a realistic goal for yourself, that a year from now, what is one thing that I would like to change about my current financial situation? Because, and being able to say, okay, this one thing, this is what I want to see achievement in.
I
And
think
that you're
also, since we're talking about money from a financial social work perspective, the behavior and the feelings around our money, the values, those are such important components of making the mindset and behavioral changes that are needed. I was thinking about, as you were talking about the your hypothetical example of your your lunch experience, um, and for some people maybe it might be that that lunchtime, that camaraderie time is a very important part of what they value. So maybe they'll schedule in maybe once a week to go out with the with the coworkers because they enjoy that time, while also,
Absolutely.
having other time where they bring their lunch. Because I think sometimes we also get the impression that we have to give up everything and it's going to be just this horrible experience and all this terrible sacrifice. And I mean, nobody wants to change in that kind of environment. So, finding those things that do bring us pleasure and joy and being able to infuse that with our new behaviors is really
Exactly.
important, because those are part of our values as.
And I use this example with some individuals. We want to begin to crowd in those things that is going to nourish us more and crowd out those things that, may, be harmful. So as you mentioned it, and that's why I said being able to take those small steps of what small changes that
Mhm.
you're able to do, what do I value here? What does that, look like? What is it about the camaraderie? And is it so much the camaraderie or that I, buying the lunch or, at the end of the day, you mentioned it. It's just I like to gather with, friends and family and this camaraderie. Okay, that's great. So that's a value. So how do we add more of that to your life? And what part and which day
Right.
is it that you want to crowd in, you sit in, and what it is we want to crowd out and you want to go out. So those different things, as you mentioned, and just make those small changes here and be consistent with the small, the consistency over time becomes more, discipline. And you realize, oh, wow, this is creative things um, that we can do. But you won't know that until let me just examine and just, for a week, for a month, like what is it that goes on at this particular, space so I can learn that. And then I can begin to say, what one thing that I would like to change today? What one thing that I would like to change over the course of the next 90 days? Because, in the, things have been shown that if I take on too much, that I won't do nothing. But if
Right.
I'm able to
Mhm.
focus in on one or two things and be intentional about that, then that's where you begin to learn yourself a little bit more and say, oh, okay, this makes sense. Now, why was I? Okay, I can do that. And so the more that you're able to take on that, you'd be like, okay, then I can add something else. And over the course of the year, you will have created new habits that have been, set in that are realistic for you and that you will stick with.
I think the other thing that comes up for me as you're speaking, Chandra, is um, who we are around, the conversations we're having around money. Um, you had mentioned, you had mentioned, um, you know, the goal of being a millionaire. It's not out of reach for us, for many of us, and certainly being on the road to being a millionaire means we're going to be improving our finances along the way. One of the things that's been extremely important to me has been having financial mentors. That's changed my life. And I would say, just as our community is really now, I think, when I started my career as a therapist many years ago, um, Black families didn't really seek out a lot of therapy or treatment. But I'm seeing 30, 40 years down the road that more of us are embracing it, are open to it. I'm seeing men gravitating toward healing. I think the previous generations, where the trauma was so deep, where we really couldn't talk about it, our grandparents, our great grandparents, even our parents. I think about some of the things my parents experienced. But that has laid the bridge for us, who I think, Chandra, you and I have been portals to healing for this
Right.
particular generation. So healing and seeking that is an option for many of us now. And seeking healing, just as we should avail ourselves to therapy, it's important for us to get coaches and mentors. They can help transport us from point A to point B. where we're happier, healthier, functioning better, and who we're having conversations with in our lives. I think, the five or
That
six people that
matters.
we spend the most time around is, is going to have an impact on our money. If we're around broke people who are talking about being broke all the time, who have no goals, that's probably where we're going to be. So for me, having a couple of millionaires in my life who are pouring into me has been a wonderful, it's been a wonderful thing, and it allows me then to be able to pour into others, because we need that kind of encouragement.
Absolutely, and I think you said it there. Who we surround ourselves around in terms of different goals in different areas. When we talk about the dimensional wellness, almost each particular area you are connecting with someone that can help you on your journey to where you want to be, where you're growing to. Definitely, if I want to be a millionaire, then I begin to talk to millionaires and I begin to see what are their habits, what are they doing, what is the journey, what is the the lifestyle, and I begin to do that and shoot and reach towards that particular goal. And I think we have not had those conversations in a long period of time. Like you mentioned, growing up, talking about money was just, you don't go outside your house and talk about anything regarding money. And this now, it's a different story that we're much more open about that. It's just now making sure that we're getting the correct information because we're in the information stage and technology is just moving fast. That information is thrown out there so much that we want to make sure that we have the right and accurate information to do what we need to do.
Right.
So having the money, mentors, coaches, counselors, therapists to talk about that, and even friends to talk about that piece that can help us in terms of as accountability partners on our particular journey. And but within that, those who that we consider to be safe, because not everyone can handle your money story and what you may share. So you definitely want to make sure you have discernment around who is in that particular space, because still talking about money is still very vulnerable within itself. So we want to be mindful who we do share our money story with, or those trusted individuals that we can trust on our journey of financial healing.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything else that you would like to make sure we cover before we end this evening? I just really appreciate this conversation so much. We've been talking about having it now for a while.
Right, right.
Glad we
I'm so
finally
happy
got
that
around to get,
yeah, and I definitely would
you
love
know,
to continue, continue these conversations. And as we mentioned, beforehand, some doing some work, possibly in 2025 about creating our own money circles and our money stories to bring financial healing and empowerment to our community. Because oftentimes, what I'm finding is that people don't have a safe space to talk about money or to heal from their money wounds or stories. So how we can start creating those safe spaces and support groups for individuals. So that's something that I'm working on for 2025. As we start out this conversation, just reflecting on the current election, it really is been placed on my heart to make sure that as Black women, as the Black community, that we're able to be economically prepared, mind and body, for what is to come, and financially on that particular journey, so we can begin to empower ourselves.
yeah, as you were saying that, I just was just aware of the tension that I was having in my shoulders.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
and I carry stress in my lower back. So I was just, as you were saying that, I felt myself tensing up about that. I think as we are being candid about our money stories, as we're being candid about our need to heal, as we are candid about what we need to do to put our plans in place, whether it's to move abroad, whether it's to um, find more holistic, healthy ways to work, whether we're starting entrepreneurship, whatever it is, um, the self care is a component
Yes,
that we just cannot leave out.
absolutely.
Being aware of where we're holding tension in our body, the rituals that we create around how we take care of ourselves. I think now even more we must be employing those aspects of healing for our lives. As we heal, then our community heals, and as our community
Absolutely.
heals, then we really have the power to make some change.
Absolutely. And so,
um,
you know,
I just want to thank you
what,
for this.
no, you were just mentioning just in terms
No, go ahead,
of
Chandra.
um self-care strategies and just feeling the tension in our body, and sometimes being able to practice deep breathing or taking a short breath to release
Mhm.
what is going on in your body makes a wonderful wellness discipline that you can do on a daily basis. So maybe next time when we come together, we can practice some of those, strategies that we can give, individuals in terms of how to release things in our particular bodies, because we want to be, well on our journey to wealth. So,
I love that. We want to be well on our journey to wealth. Perfectly, perfectly said. So thank you so much, Chandra, for being here
problem.
this evening. I'm looking forward to our next conversations. I
Yes,
think
yes,
there's a
definitely. Can't
series
wait.
here we can fit.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
so thank you again. This is Chandra Parks. She's in the DMV area, holistic counselor, financial health strategist, trainer, financial social worker. I just I just value her and her perspective so much. And I wanted to tell you all thank you again for tuning in tonight on this live. I'm Sonia Falayon. Wanted to let you know that we do have a retreat coming up in February. It's called Jumpstart Your Sojourn 2. This will be our second year in doing it. And it is an opportunity for rest and reflection in the lakeside area of Mexico. And we also will have move abroad professionals that you can access while you are getting information. Uh, Also, if you are in the lakeside area of Mexico, please give us a call so that you can stay in our bed and breakfast, which is called Sojourners Vista del Lago. And if you have not asked to join our private Facebook group, Mexodus Sojourners, please do so. We would love to see you. Chandra, thank you again so very
Yes, no
much. And
problem.
I look forward to
Yes. All righty. Thank you.
our next conversation. All right.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to ask you to hold on for a second. Okay. All right. No problem. Okay, hold on for a moment while I end the stream.